and my name is Yola, and today we're gonna read Magic Treehouse story, and it's a new book and another story to read. And the name of the Magic Treehouse story is Earthquake in the Early Morning. Oh, I think Jack and Annie go somewhere, and that country have a earthquake. So the ground have a 2 pieces of ground. So Jack and Annie will have to hurry and go to Magic Treehouse again. Now we can get started at chapter 1 and then we end up reading at chapter 3, okay? And now, are you ready for this one book and a lot of stories? Now, here we go. And first, you can read Magic Treehouse Earthquake in the Early Morning. Chapter 1, Tweet Tweet. Jack sat up in bed. He stared down his window. The sky was dark and gray. The sun would be rising soon. It's almost time, he whispered to himself. The day before, in the Magic Treehouse, Morgan Note had said, "Come back tomorrow in early morning." Jack jumped out of bed. He put his jeans and t-shirts. Then he grabbed his backpack and creeped out into the hall. Jack peeked into Annie's room. She wasn't there. He slipped downstairs and out the front door. Annie was sitting on the porch steps. Jack sat down beside her. "What are you doing?" he said. "I was waiting for the birds to start singing," said Annie. "Then I was going to wake you up." Jack and Annie watched the sky go from dark gray to the night light gray. Then the birds began their song. "Tweet, tweet," said Annie. Without another word, Jack and Annie left their pouch. They hand up with a street to Frog Creek woods. And it was a cool beneath trees. Jack and Annie hurried through the woods into the rope ladder. It hung from a tallest oak. At the top of the oak was a magic treehouse. They climbed up into the treehouse. It was barely light inside, and Annie picked up a note lying on the floor. She held up the window and read aloud. "Dear Jack and Annie, Camelot is in trouble. To save the kingdom, please find this for special kinds of writing on my library. Something to follow, something to sign, something to learn, something to land. Thank you, Morgan." Jack took a deep breath. "Okay," he said, "we have our first special writing a list from a civil war. We have second," said Annie, "a let there robberly were. We have the third," said Jack, "a poem, the Corner Schoolhouse. Now we just need one more," said Annie. "I wonder why we have to find this special writing for Morgan Library," said Jack. "How are they going to save the Camelot?" "I don't know," said Annie, "but let's get going so we can solve the mystery. Then, and where are our research books?" They looked around the treehouse. Their Pennsylvania book, the book that always brings them home, was lying in the corner. Beside, there's another book. Annie picked it up. "This is it," she said softly. She showed the book cover to Jack. It said, San Francisco, California, 1906. California? Said Jack. I've always wanted to go to California. Me too, said Annie. She laughed. I guess I told Mrs. Needy the truth after all. Yeah, said Jack, smiling. A magic treehouse had taken them to the Pioneer School in their last adventure. There Annie had told the teacher, Mrs. Needy, that we're on their way to California. Annie pointed the cover to California book. We really wish we could go there, she said, and the wind started to blow, the treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster, then everything was still, absolutely still. Now chapter 2, Thunder Under the Ground. Oh, thunder's under the ground. That means the earthquake is coming. Nice clothes, said Annie. Jack opened his eyes. Annie was wearing a blue and white dress with a long big sailor collar and white stockings. Jack was wearing a brown knee-left pants and jacket and a cap and a tie. His backpack had become a ladder bag, and he and Annie both wear short lace-up boots. And Jack, a church bell started to ring. Gong, 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 gong. It rang 5 times, said Jack. It must be 5 in the morning. Yeah, said Annie. She was looking at the window. Jack looked with her. Early morning air felt fresh and cool. The treehouse had landed in a tree at the bottom of the hill. Painted wooden houses and glass lights lined the quiet cobblestone street. A trolley car moved along a tracks up street, and it rounded atop of the hill and disappeared. A tall building towered farther off, and the sun was behind them, making pink streaks in the blue sky. It's really pretty here, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack. He opened the research book and read. On Wednesday, April 18 and 1906, San Francisco was the biggest city on the west coast in the United States. It had a population of half of a million people. It was also one of the largest cities in the country. And Jack pulled his notebook and wrote San Francisco, April 18 and 1906, the biggest city in the West. Lovely. Let's go, Annie said impatiently, and Jack looked at the back of the book. He wanted to learn more. Now, said Annie. She took the book and the notebook away from him and put them into his ladder bag. Let's not waste any more time. Annie left their treehouse. Doing research is not wasting time, Jack called after her. But he slung over his shoulder and followed Annie down the rope ladder. Then they all had both stepped into the grass, and Jack looked around. Where to? He said. Anywhere, said Annie. Jack just explored to see sights. We can be tourists. Okay, said Jack, but I don't forget we have to find a writing for Morgan's library. And they started up the cobble street. As they walked up the steep hill, the sun rose above the tall buildings. The early light turned everywhere to gold stones and fit lamps, and the grass is windows of the silent houses. It's so quiet and peaceful, said Annie. Yeah, everyone must be sleeping. Oh, that means no one is outside and very quiet because it's nighttime. Not nighttime, but it's daytime, but it's sleeping time for normal people. And suddenly, out of the quiet came a deep rumbling noise. Jack stopped. He grabbed Annie's arm. What's that? He said. The noise got louder. It sounded like a thunder coming under the ground. And they each start shaking. The church bells clanging violently. Wall Street began to move. The cobblestones rolled the waves on the ocean. What's happening? Annie cried. Camels fell off roofs. Gashes lights took over the big crash of the street. Get down, shouted Jack. Cover your head. And Jack and Annie crouched into their ground with their arms over their heads. And all around them rumbling, clanging, crashing, and breaking. Oh, I think the people is not sleeping. I think people have go to another country because they know the earthquake is coming. And their arms over their heads, all around them, rumbling, clanging, and crushing and breaking. They all grew still. The rumbling stopped, and Jack and Annie raised their hands, and there was filling with dust. It's over, said Jack. That must have been an earthquake, said Annie. I think so. Jack agreed. I guess I should have led you to a little moral research on this place. Annie said. Yeah, probably, said Jack. I expect I don't know actually what we do have done. Jack slowly stood up. The legs felt wobbly as he pushed up the plan. Stiff rumbling came again, louder than before. Then a terrible shaking started. It was even harder than before. It was hurled into the ground. The earth trembled and quaked. And Jack bounced against the hard cobblestones. Annie, he cried. He started to stand, but he fell again. Through the dusty air, he saw a tall building soaring against the sky. The roofs were caving in. Up in the ground and the street, bricks and glasses and concrete shouldered down. It seemed like a long time before the day's full noises and shaking finally stopped. Phew! Now Jack and Annie are safer to California because the earthquake is stopped. Now chapter 3, the Great Shake, will be started tomorrow, okay? Now the end of reading at chapter 3. And tomorrow we start at chapter 3 and then the end of reading at chapter 5, okay? Because we're reading a 2 chapter in one book, okay? And now, did you have fun here at English Country? Come back with them this book, but not this story because it might be a new chapter to read, okay? And now, if you like my YouTube, please download my YouTube every time now. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.